Hey everyone, Leslie here, and for December, just in time for the holidays, I wanted to bring you a gray hair reversal success story. So this comes from a viewer named Chris, who is 28 years old and who kindly has shared his before and after pictures. I always say, if you can, take pictures before and after, and for women, definitely go into the root so you can see any new change in color. I know that premature gray hair is really touches a nerve in a lot of people. And one of the things that Chris addressed, which was low vitamin D3 status, is going to be the focus of today's video. And the reason why is because although it was only one of the factors associated with his premature gray hair that he corrected, it is something that I really think is of concern to those who are younger, because it also represents low immune function. So we tend to, when we are young and healthy, we are very capable of synthesizing vitamin D from sunlight. And if you think about it, 100 years ago, most of us, our ancestors, would have been either working on the land or spending more time outside with more exposure to sunlight. But the way that we live today, we often spend our days inside, protected from sunlight. And when we go outside, we often wear sunblock, which will obviously mean we just don't get the opportunity to synthesize that vitamin D3. Another place where we might get vitamin D is from certain milk products. So grass-fed butter and ghee are very good sources of vitamin D, as would milk be as well. However, not all of us eat those products, nor do we drink them very much. And for those who carry the ApoE4 single nucleotide polymorphism, which actually predisposes to Alzheimer's, you probably want to avoid saturated fat, so you wouldn't be getting it that way. Finally, another thing is that if you think about the fact that so many young people today have grown up with a device in front of them, it just means that they are more likely to be inside, looking at that device rather than being outside, kicking a soccer ball around or running or hanging out with friends, right? So again, less opportunity to synthesize vitamin D3. So let's jump right into what Chris did to reverse his gray hair. So when I asked him what were the most impactful things that he did, he said number one was actually improving his sleep. So increasing the length of sleep he got, as well as the quality of sleep. So how did he do this? He took magnesium. And I've said in previous videos that around 70% of the population is deficient in magnesium, which means that supplementation, which is very, very cheap, magnesium glycinate is a good one to take, easy on the stomach. That is a great way to help on that glide path to sleepy time at night. And I like to take it right before bed. I'll also take it in the morning. So that's something that you could try as well. Another thing that he did was he increased the amount of green vegetables he ate, as well as the number of salads. At the same time, he decreased his intake of dairy, and he also decreased gluten in his diet. Now, gluten is kind of interesting because Dr. Thierry Hertog, who is one of the world's leading endocrinologists, has actually said that in his clinical practice, he has actually observed gray hair reversal in patients who have gone gluten-free. And they will have gone gluten-free because of other reasons, for example, autoimmune conditions, undiagnosed celiac disease, or perhaps they've just got gluten sensitivity. But I thought that was quite interesting. And that means that if for some reason you have it triggers some kind of an inflammatory response in your body. And remember, it won't do this in everyone, but if it happened to do that before, you will be decreasing that inflammation. So that's another interesting factor in his gray hair reversal. The third thing he did was he actually addressed a very low vitamin B12 level in his body. And I think I mentioned at the beginning of this video that he did exactly what you're supposed to do, what I always tell all of you to do, which is get your lab panels run. Go to your doctor, go to a nurse, go to a phlebotomist, and make sure you get those lab panels run so you know what is going on inside the body, and we're not just guessing, right? Nobody wants to waste their time guessing what's happening. Not to mention, if you have, for instance, low vitamin B12 status and it goes undiagnosed, or you have low iron status and it goes undiagnosed, that can have very serious physical consequences that have nothing to do with gray hair, but have to do with fatigue, energy, mood. So B12, as you know from my other videos, low B12 is linked to low mood status. He doesn't mention anything about this, but he did see this in his lab panels. He and his doctor addressed this. He took capsules, but he also took shots. Now, B12 shots you're going to need to get from a doctor or a nurse, and that's not something that you can just do, but it is a way to quickly address a deficiency. The next thing that he did was he took glutathione. As you know, glutathione is terrific if you've got stress. And it's one of the things that I do every day because, of course, as we get older, our body's ability to manufacture glutathione in the liver goes down. So I like to take that, as well as vitamin D3, which is the fifth thing that he did. And if you think carefully about vitamin D status in older people, I've just mentioned that as we get older, it is much harder for us to produce vitamin D3. Then if there is a correlation between low vitamin D3 status and gray hair, we would expect that the older we get, the less pigment in our hair we get. And indeed, that is the case. So I found a couple of studies from the International Journal of Trichology, which actually explored this. They were both done in India, and one was done in 2016, and another was done in 2018. And what they did was they simply wanted to identify the factors associated with premature hair graying in a young Indian population. And they noticed that those who had canities, that's a fancy word for gray hair, had low vitamin D3 status. Now, I happened to see a really cool study out of Beijing that was published in August of this year, of 2020. And this study, instead of looking at the blood levels of those patients with gray hair, they did something different. They actually looked at the hair bulbs themselves, and they were looking at the lipid or fat profiles in the hair bulbs. And they had three cohorts. They took a cohort that had pure white hair. They took a cohort that had sort of mixed gray and white and black hair. And then they took a control group that was all black haired. And they noticed that in the hair follicles of all black hair, there were high levels of vitamin D3. In the hair follicles of those with pure white hair, there were exceedingly low levels of vitamin D. So this is quite intriguing. It does not mean that low vitamin D3 is causative, but there's clearly a link, and topping up with vitamin D3 is not going to hurt you. As a matter of fact, given that we have a global pandemic right now, given that it's cold and flu season, it can only help you. And as a matter of fact, for those of us who are of ethnic origin, for example, I'm half Chinese, we have this problem. My mother grew up in a tropical condition on the island of Taiwan. And so, skin this color is perfect for absorbing sunlight. in a tropical climate. But now I live in Great Britain. Oh my gosh, there's no sun here, right? It's a totally different spectrum of light. And as a matter of fact, there have been many cases reported north of the border in Scotland of individuals who are of South Asian extraction and have slightly darker skin tones who have actually developed not just vitamin D deficiency, but rickets. And we know, for example, in Great Britain, that those of South Asian extraction are more likely to be hit very hard by this virus that shall not be named. We didn't know why, but the government here has actually taken the exceptional step of distributing vitamin D to those populations that they consider at risk, which would include those of BAME extraction, as well as those who have pre-existing conditions. So vitamin D is always, you should make sure that you have optimum levels. And you can just, you can get a finger prick test for this that is delivered through your mailbox. So even in lockdown, wherever you are, you can assess your vitamin D status. And I suggest that as you get older, you do it every 6 months. It is that important. So this is the kind of vitamin D3 that I take. It's from a company in Delaware called Natural Stacks. And it actually comes with, it's 5,000 international units, and it comes encapsulated in, it's a really tiny format, so you can see how itty bitty that is, super teeny tiny. And what's great about it is that it's got coconut oil in it. So when you take vitamin D with a fat, it's actually better absorbed. And my kids can easily swallow that because it's a very small capsule. And if you were to break it open with your teeth, it tastes fine, So it's not one of those supplements you think, I really don't want to take that. It's very easy to add. Now, one thing I will say is that if you're going to take vitamin D3, please always take it together with vitamin K2. So this is a spray delivery mechanism. You could get it in a capsule as well. Again, if you take grass-fed butter or ghee, you'll get it together. There are some supplement manufacturers that actually put them together, and that's actually the easiest if you can do that, because then you only have to take one capsule, right? Sometimes they come in drops. Now, why do we need to take vitamin K2? And the K, by the way, stands for coagulation, because it allows your blood to clot. D3 and K2 actually worked in harmony together with calcium, and they drive calcium in your body into your bones. If you only have D3 and calcium and you do not have K2, unfortunately, it appears that that calcium will lay down in the lining of your arteries and it will make them smaller. That, my friends, is not good. So please always take D3 and K2 together. So what's the lowdown here? What are the takeaways? Well, number one, that just in time for Christmas, we have proof of gray hair reversal. Number two, it can take up to a year to reverse. Number three, and this was something I meant to say, is that you will actually get an improvement, not just in hair color, but in texture. So if you notice here, there are a lot of slightly frizzy gray hairs or kinky gray hairs, and they have actually smoothed out. The texture is stronger. So that's number three. Number four, do not underestimate the importance of sleep and magnesium in gray hair reversal. Number five, always take your blood panels ahead of time so you know what it is you're looking at and what to address first. And finally, vitamin D, that's important. Try to either get out in the sun or supplement and get it in your diet. As ever, if you've got any questions or comments, please leave them below. I will do my best to get to them. It's simply not always possible because now there are a lot of videos with a lot of comments, and Sometimes it's too much, but please be patient with me and I will try to get back to you. All right, if you enjoyed this channel and you'd like to see other anti-aging, healthy aging tips, please consider subscribing to my newsletter. The link is below, or subscribing to this channel. And finally, also, I do have a gray hair detective quiz that will help you if you can't get your blood test done. We'll give you some ideas of things to explore with your doctor once you are able to see them again. And I do have a gray hair reversal ebook that is free if you go to the download link. All right, have a great December. See you next time.